Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said the world was going to end in 12 years unless we did something dramatic like her Green New Deal. Now, she says she's only joking, and if you believed her, you're dumber than a sea sponge. Bill Nye, the science guy, has a meltdown over global warming, and we'll look at the case of Gibson Bakery versus Oberlin College. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, remember when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was pitching her Green New Deal? It was a restructuring of everything, every element of society and the economy, Medicare for all, education for all these things, in an effort to help the environment. But what was the motivation behind it? What was her driving force? Remember that? It was that we had to act now because we only had 12 years left before the end of the world, before changes would come that we could not turn around. Is the point of no return. Here's a clip just to remind you.
Millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it?
And then she also put out this tweet. Climate change is here and we've got a deadline. 12 years left to cut emissions in half. A Green New Deal is our plan for a world and a future worth fighting for. How did we get here? What's at stake and where are we going? Please watch and share widely. Okay, that led into a video which we covered on a previous program, but here's just a little clip.
When I was elected to Congress, the world's leading climate scientists declared another emergency. They told us that we had 12 years left to cut our emissions in half, or hundreds of millions of people would be more likely to face food and water shortages, poverty, and death. 12 years to change everything.
All right, but what isn't it only that? She also went on Instagram during one of her live stories, drinking wine and building something most likely, and she said this about the 12-year prediction.
How many years until the world ends again? We have 12 years left to cut emissions by at least 50%, if not more. And for everyone who wants to make a joke about that, you may laugh, but your grandkids will not.
All right, well, guess what? Now she says, hey, man, I was only kidding. That was just a joke. Take a look at what she just tweeted the other day. This is a technique of the GOP to take dry humor and sarcasm literally and fact check it, like the world ending in 12 years thing. You'd have to have the social intelligence of a sea sponge to think it's literal. But the GOP is basically Dwight from The Office, so who knows? All right, so let's repeat. If you believed what she was saying, which she said over and over again, you're dumber than a sea sponge. And guys, this is where I need some help, and you can help me with this, because I always thought that a sea sponge looked like this. Or maybe even this. Well, it turns out that a sea sponge actually looks like this.
This is our final chance. The scientists are absolutely unanimous on this, that we have no more than 12 years to take incredibly bold action on this crisis.
So there you have it, Beto the Sea Sponge and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stepping back on what she said over and over and over again. I guess getting fact-checked by the Associated Press and having everybody else know that what you're saying is ridiculous and untrue kind of wears down on you after a little bit, and now it's just all a joke. Well, here's someone who wasn't joking. Bill Nye, the science guy, was fired up. On the program Last Week Tonight with John Oliver on HBO, Bill Nye was on, and he was talking about global warming, and here is how his little skit started.
I've got an experiment for you. Safety glasses on. By the end of this century, if emissions keep rising, the average temperature on Earth could go up another 4 to 8 degrees. What I'm saying is the planet's on fire.
All right, and then he talked about the remedies to fix global warming, and of course, they aren't cheap. They have a cost, and he said this.
Nothing's free, you idiots. Grow the up. You're not children anymore. I didn't mind explaining photosynthesis to you when you were 12, but you're adults now, and this is an actual crisis. Got it? Safety glasses off.
I mean, what is going on with him? And here's one thing. He talks about nothing is free. The reason he brings up the cost is because he's trying to hit people with, there is a way to solve this. It costs something, and it's something like the Green New Deal. It costs a complete restructuring in the economy. It costs wealth redistribution. It costs taxpayers billions and billions and billions of dollars to adopt a socialist economy, all in the name of protecting the environment. It goes way beyond just protecting the environment. And as I was putting this segment together, I realized that even more because I looked up her old FAQ that went out with her Green New Deal proposal, the one that talked about farting cows and things like that. And in it, she mentioned CCUS, which is the carbon capture, utilization, and storage. These are technologies used to help existing factories or other existing industries to actually scrub or clean the CO2 out of the air. And in her paragraph on the FAQ, they just ignored it. They just said, it's not really feasible. And why? Why not invest in technologies where private industries or colleges can help develop even better means of CO2 scrubbing and start to implement that? Why? Because that is more like a private sector solution. We wouldn't have to change anything. We could keep the factories that we have. All we're doing is scrubbing the CO2 out of the air. But that doesn't involve a socialist economy. That doesn't involve wealth redistribution. That doesn't mean taking over major sectors of the economy, which is what the Green New Deal is all about and what the leftists truly, really want. So Bill Nye can have his rant, but we see through it, and there's no way we're going to adopt a Green New Deal and restructure everything when we can care about the environment, we can care about cleaning things up, and do it in a way that makes sense. You don't have to adopt socialism to care about the environment. All right, now I want to talk about a really fascinating case. This is Gibson's Bakery versus Oberlin College. It's a trial that just started this week. And for those of you who don't know, Oberlin College is it's a small left-wing college that has been in the news a number of times for just its faculty and its students as far left-wing as can be. And this story involves the day after, or shortly after Trump was elected, there's a bakery that has existed since the late 1800s in Oberlin and has an affiliation with the university, has provided them food for 100 years. A black man and two black women went into the store, robbed it. They shoplifted some wine, and one of the owners chased the suspects out, and there was a scuffle. Police were called, and arrests were made. All right. Then it was later solved or put to rest with a plea deal. These three suspects pled guilty and also issued a statement that the restaurant or the bakery people, the Gibsons, didn't act with racial profiling or anything like that. Basically, yeah, we were stealing. They caught us. We're guilty. That's it. All right. Well, what happened in between is what has led to this trial now, because within a day after the arrests were made, Oberlin College, and as we are seeing in the trial, faculty and some administrators were up in arms. And not that three people stole something from a business, but they were after Gibsons. They were after them for acting as racist, basically saying that they are the criminals and the actual criminals are the victims. Shortly after this incident went down, this flyer was circulated. Take a look at this. It says, "Don't buy. This is a racist establishment with a long account of racial profiling and discrimination." All right, within a day, the student government at Oberlin also got into the mix. So I guess after one day, you can talk to witnesses, talk to the suspects, look at the police report, and solve the case. That's what they did. They solved the case. They put forward a resolution, and here is some of what they said. Said, a black student was chased and assaulted at Gibson's after being accused of stealing. Several other students attempting to prevent the assaulted student from sustaining further injury were arrested and held by Oberlin Police Department. In the midst of all this, Gibson employees were never detained and were given preferential treatment by police officers. Gibson's has a history of racial profiling and discriminatory treatment of students and residents alike. Now, we could dissect that just right there. I mean, there's so many things that they said that was wrong, but here then they got to their resolutions. What are they going to do? What do they stand for? And here's what they said. The students of Oberlin College immediately cease all support, financial and otherwise, of Gibson's Food Market and Bakery. The students of Oberlin College call on President Marvin Krislov, Dean of Students Meredith Raimondo, and all other administrators and the general faculty to condemn by written promulgation the treatment of students of color by Gibson's Food Market and Bakery. All right, well, this was all too much because what happened was there were protests outside the bakery. There were statements like the flyer you just saw and others over and over again accusing this bakery of being racist, of being discriminatory. And as we're learning in the trial, during some of these protests, Oberlin faculty, this dean of students, Meredith Raimondo, was involved in passing out flyers and printing the flyers on Oberlin College printers. And here's just some of the report of what's been going on in the trial that is just absolutely fascinating. This is by Daniel McGraw over at Legal Insurrection. It said, police officer Victor Ortiz also settled an issue that has caused some dispute and consternation in Oberlin. Some in the Oberlin College community have expressed that one of the Gibson employees, Alan Gibson, chased the 3 shoplifters, 1 male, 2 females, and beat them up unfairly and illegally outside the store. In short, the school supporters have pushed interpretation of all of this that the shoplifters were the victims of a crime, not Gibsons. Quite the opposite happened, Ortiz testified, as he was one of the first on the scene, and the police report backs him up on this. When we got there, we saw 2 young ladies standing over Alan Gibson and throwing haymakers at him, Ortiz said. The 2 women would stand over him and kick him and then crouch down and throw punches. As we got closer, we could see Alan Gibson on his back with the male on top of him, punching him. All right. And so that was testimony from the other day. And I am going to include links to the day-by-day testimony, trial days, because Daniel McGraw has done an outstanding job and of covering this and writing it up. Is just fascinating because, again, what we see is a college being complicit and encouraging the actions of the students. So if these colleges are going to be left-wing breeding grounds, if they are going to focus on indoctrination, then you have to think that they are somehow could be held responsible for those actions. If they are helping, encourage this idea that this bakery is racist, that they discriminate, when we'll find out in the trial if it turns out that they're not, but the Oberlin officials, faculty encouraged it, then this is going to be a very big case and can have ramifications for conservatives across the country when dealing with left-wing institutions like Oberlin College. So we'll keep on it. I have links in the description below to the day-by-day trial coverage from Daniel McGraw. Please check it out. Folks, please hit the subscribe button and then hit that bell. And I hope you have a great day. We'll see you on Friday. I'm Bobby Eberly. This is a 13-Minute News Hour.